So, as we discussed in the last week, we were moving towards server-side code, wherein we started with business rule. We will have a short revision, and then we will move forward towards different things which are there with respect to business rule and the scripting which is available on the server side. So, what is business rule? Business rule is nothing but a JavaScript code that runs on server. Okay, and it runs whenever a particular record is displayed, whenever it is inserted or it is updated or deleted. So let's say anything which you do with respect to your database from your user interface, it there your business rule will come into the picture because you are going to hit your database, right? And then can be used to change values in the field when certain conditions are met. So we can use business rule in order to set certain values on a form. For example, we wanted to set short description, or whether we wanted to update priority, we want to create a new record, all that can be done with respect to business rules. Okay, business rule execute server side, so they are on the server, which means they are faster and they do not monitor form fields, which means even though that field is not visible on the form, still you can update the value of that particular field at business rule. It is not like that field is not there on the table itself. The field is not there on the table, then for sure you cannot do that. But if that field is not if the field is there on the table but it is not visible in the form, still you can update the value of that particular field by business rules. Okay, then we move towards what are the different types of business rules. So we have four types of business rule, like based on conditions. So it is like before, after, async and display, and we saw what are these different type of business rule, how these business this different type of business rule work, and in conjunction of what. So let's discuss about before business rule. Before is like when you have submitted the form and before the data gets updated into the database. During this span, like you hit the save button and the data went to server to get updated in the database, right? In between, if you want to do something, you will be writing your before business rule. Okay. One classical example is calculation of priority based on impact and urgency. Okay. So the priority keeps on calculating based upon, irrespective of whatever is happening in the over the incident. Okay. So before, the changes or anything is getting done, everything is happening simultaneously. Okay. Then we have something called after business rule, which means you have updated the database. After that, you want to do certain thing. For example, you have moved your incident to close state, and then after that you wanted to create a problem record, or after that you wanted to send some notification, right? That is when you will be writing your after business rule. So in order to, whenever your database operation is done, after your database has been updated, and after that you want to do certain thing, you will be getting a lot of use cases. Okay, so a client will come up that, okay, you have to create, once my request is close completed, I want to trigger something. So request is close completed, which means the data has already been updated. After that, he wants to do certain thing, right? Then you will be using your after business rule. Then we also discussed about async business rule, wherein we came across two of the concept. One is like synchronous call within server, and one is like asynchronous call within server. So synchronous call means you send a request and you wait for reply, as simple as that. And asynchronous is you send the request but you don't wait for it. You don't wait for reply. You continue with your regular work, as simple. Okay. So a classical example is, whenever you update any incident, right, backend, a lot of scheduled jobs get triggered. A lot of things is happening in the backend. We discussed even, let's about a case wherein, let's say Pakruni is in US and Uganda is in UK, and she has asked Uganda to send a report daily her time. So it's not necessary for Uganda to log in every day when 9 a.m. US time, or let's say 2 a.m. US time. What Uganda can do, Uganda can basically write a scheduled job, which is kind of asynchronous in nature, and it will automatically trigger whenever that specific time comes up. Okay, so this is something called async, which means the entire logic, the entire code is running in the backend. It is not waiting for your form to, it is not waiting for your server to return the response. Then only it will proceed. Rather, it is running in the background. whenever we will be building up integrations, you will see a lot of code, or in your real use cases, you will see a lot of code which runs on async business rule related to integrations, because you don't want user to wait every time. That will not be a good user experience. So what you try to do, you try to pull up all the logic of integrations in async business rule, so that even though user updates the form, the request goes to another system, and then that system returns a ticket ID that gets updated. That all happens in the background via async business rule. Then we also saw what is display business rule. So whenever you try to query your database, right, and before the result is written, when I say before the result is written, for example, I wanted to see all the payslips of 2023 for Ravi Kiran. I may not be a correct person, because pay slips are very sensitive data, and it should be bound to a specific person, not the HR, right? Even managers should not be able to see. So what I will do, I'll try to write, okay, what to say, uh, employee is Ravi Kiran, and I want to see pay slips of last 1 year. So I'll submit this data. What will happen if I have written something called display business rule? System will check who is the logged in user. They will check, okay, Devendra is the logged in user, and whether he is authorized to see that record or not. So I have submitted this query that I wanted to see this data. But before that result is returned to me, this business rule will run into in between, and it will check whether I am eligible person or not. If I am eligible person or the right person, it will display me the result. And if I am not the eligible person, it will not return anything. Okay. Similar thing can be achieved by ACLs also, but we have something called display business rule also you can utilize, wherein you can restrict the visibility of a record based on certain conditions. Also, display business rule is utilized when we have to populate something called G underscore scratchpad variable. We discussed, remember, when we were in our client side APIs, we discussed that G underscore form is there, G underscore user is there, and then third one was G underscore scratchpad, which comes here into the picture, wherein G underscore scratchpad gets value whenever we are writing display business rule. And that G underscore scratchpad, it is like a container. Okay, it is like a container which can hold multiple values, and same that container you can use on your client side, like G underscore form. It will have all the server side related values. You have to write a business rule, and you have to populate that business rule values. So we will see certain example related to G underscore scratchpad, and that G underscore scratchpad you can use in your client side to update certain things. Okay, and then we saw how we can write business rule within ServiceNow. So you have to just do nothing but you can type business rule in your application navigator, and in the system definition there is something called business rule, and you can click to open that business rule list. Also, you can go directly on that on any particular incident table form or any form, and right click and configure all you can do, or configure specific business rule. So what will happen? Business rule form will open. Then we discussed these things. How does your business rule form looks like? So it will have something called name field, wherein you can provide any logical name based on your requirement, and you have to provide something called table, wherein the table will be the specific table on which this business rule has to run. All the logic, whatever it is there within ServiceNow, it has to be bounded towards a particular table, so that it doesn't run everywhere. Okay, and it is running on those specific condition and those specific cases. Then we have something called active. Active is just to ensure that your business rule is active, which means your whatever condition or whatever logic is there, that logic is running on that specific table. Okay. Then we have something called advanced. The moment you click advanced, it provides you with a list of with the different options of writing script or configuring your business rule. So the moment you click on advanced, you have something called these three tabs which are available: when to run. Then we have something called action and advanced. When to run. When to run is nothing but where you provide your all conditions. Which conditions isn't, you describe what type of your business rule is. So you'll be putting something called when. You can select before, after, async or display, and then you have these options of insert, update, like CURD operation, which is there on databases. Usually create, read, update, delete. So as simple as that. In ServiceNow language, it is called insert, update, delete, or query. Okay, read is nothing but your query on ServiceNow world. And then we have something called filter conditions, wherein you can, with the help of drop down, you can build those conditions. Okay, so if you are not into too much of code, you can definitely try to utilize filter conditions, wherein you can try to build up a certain condition upon which this business rule runs. One classical interview question which usually comes up is, if I do not provide any filter condition, what happens? Will my business rule run every time, or will it not run? It is obvious that this business rule will run every time. So based upon whether you are inserting a record or whether you are updating the record, this business rule will be running every time. So if you have selected, let's say, insert, so whenever your record is getting inserted, it will run. And if you have selected, with God's grace, both of them, then every time your incident or any record gets inserted into that particular table, your business rule will run, which means you will end up utilizing a lot of memory space and your system will run little slow. Okay. Then we have something called actions tab, wherein directly you can set up certain values based upon what you have selected. So let's say I wanted to set before I wrote a business rule wherein I'm trying to create a problem record. So whenever after my incident is moved to resolved or closed status, after that I want to let's say put some caller for my problem record. Sorry, I cannot put here because it will be there on the same table. So let's say after my ticket is closed, okay, I want to update the work note. So what I will do, I will put work note equal to whatever value I have to provide. I can put that. So without writing too much of code, also you can write up your business rule. Okay, but ServiceNow still gives you, as a developer, it gives you capabilities wherein you can write complex codes by writing them. Okay, in advanced tab. So in under advanced tab, you have something called a scripting area wherein you can write a lot of code based upon a lot of complex code based upon your user story or customer stories. Okay, so you saw that there in the beginning there is something called this filter condition. So this condition has to become true, then only your business rule executes. When I say this, it means whatever condition I'm putting, like state is in progress, which means if his incident is in open state or resolved state, this business rule will not run. So all the condition has to get true, then only this business rule will execute. So this is one of the area where you can write condition. And then under advanced tab also you have something called conditions, which you can use to write complex condition by writing code. If you are somebody who's a coder and likes to do a lot of coding, then you can utilize this. So first page, when to run, that condition has to get true, then this condition has to get true, and then this entire logic under script box will get executed. If any one of them, like this condition or that condition, fails, your business rule will not execute. Okay. So we have discussed now what are the different types and everything related to business rule. And then we also moved towards what are the different global variables which are present within our ServiceNow for business rule. So like in our client side, we saw that there are certain APIs which are available, G_form, G_user, G_scratch. But similarly, on server side, specific in business rule, you have something called current, previous, and G_scratch. These are available on your server side business rule. So in client side, when we saw that when we are writing something called on change script, we saw that there are few variables which are also available, like new value, old value, is template, is loading. These were certain variables which were available. Similarly, when you are writing business rule, right, these are the two variables which are there, which are predefined server side global variables available for us to write the code. Now, what is the use of these two variables? Okay, so current variable will tell you the current value of particular field. Okay, so let's say my current state of incident is in progress, but I want to know what was my previous state. So what I will do, previous dot state I will put, which means it will give me previous value of my state. Okay, current state is in progress, and previous state, if I want to know, I can use previous. Okay, and let's say I want to use this current variable in order to write certain condition, I can do that also. which means, let's say if I have a business requirement wherein if current caller is a VIP caller, that time trigger notification to line manager, right? So I can check current dot caller dot VIP. If it is equal to true, then trigger this mailbox. So I can utilize that also. So current will help me to get current values on the form, and these values come from server side. Okay, it is not client side. These values are the values which are on current form from server side or your database is coming. Then you have something called G underscore scratchpad, which is utilized to during display business rule, and it works in conjunction with client script, which means you are going to pass the value from server side to client side. Okay, remember that each side of API or each side of scripting has its own set of variables which are available, which are not available. But there are certain points when server and client do interact. So one of the situation or one of the API they have provided, or global scratchpad variable they have provided, object they have provided in order to call server side to client side is underscore scratchpad. Okay, then we saw that if we wanted to do a dot walking, let's say dot walking is what you are moving from one table to another. So on our incident form we have seen that there are certain fields which are not, oh my God, which are there on incident form, or which are there on the form as a reference field. When I say reference field means these fields are not there on their own form, right? They get the data from some other table. For example, on incident form we have something called caller field. Caller field has data. Caller field is present on incident, but it gets the data, or it has the data from user table. So I can do a dot walk like this: current dot caller ID dot email. So I am providing current is the object which is provided on server side business rule. Dot caller ID is nothing but caller field on my incident form, current form. Dot email ID, I am trying to pull caller's email ID within ServiceNow. So the thing, remember, you guys were given a task to do in client script, wherein whatever candidate ID you're selecting, you have to auto populate their name, email ID, right? That this is one of the way you can do it in service. Okay, so you can pull that current dot caller dot email ID, store it in variable, and you can initialize the field with which you wanted to pull. But in client side, there is another way to do that, because what is happening, you in this case you have to go to table. You are on incident table, you have to go to user table, which means from one table to another table you have to go. So you have to go via server call. Okay, so in client side also there are certain functions which helps you to get this done. We will see that one. Okay, so I hope till here everything is clear, so that we can start with certain example, and then we may deep dive into glide systems for today. Okay, do you guys have any question with respect to whatever we have covered till now?
Nothing, Devendra.
Okay, so let's
So
cover a couple of.
now, so now you are going to start server
We are already into server side
server script,
scripting.
right?
Yeah, now
Okay.
we are already into server side script. So with UI action, your server side has already started. So UI action, we covered little bit on client side because we have covered only client side part. We have not covered server side. So once your server side part is fully done, we'll go back to UI actions, wherein we will try to do certain things via UI action using server side code. Okay, but server side
Okay.
script has already started the moment you say business rule script include all that, right? So your server side script has already started. Okay, so let's guys, give me 1 second. Yeah, so we will be covering a couple of examples wherein we will see why we are writing business rule and how this business rule we can write and what are the things we can achieve by this rule. So let's say there is one requirement wherein we have to check hire date and last date. As simple as that. That let's say any employee gets onboarded to any company. Okay, so we want to ensure there that their hire date means the date on which that employee is hired is always in the past, then the last working date of that person. Okay, so higher date should always be lesser than your last working date. Okay, it cannot be greater than last working day, should not be what to say, lesser than your higher date. When I say like that, it means that let's say you put your higher date of 7th April 2023, you should not put your last working day as 1st of April 2024 or 2023. Why? Because you are hiring employee on 7th. How he can get his last working day on 1st of April, right? So such type of validation, if you have to do, how you can do it in your server side code, that is your business rule. So what we will do, name as usual, we will provide any logical name. So we put something called check the higher and last date. Okay, then when we want to check this, so we wanted to write before insert. So let's say before a record is inserted or before a record is updated into database, that time you do this check. Why before? Because if data wrong, we always want that our service now database or table should always have correct data. It should not have incorrect data. That's why we try to put validations such as mandatory, non-mandatory, all that we put, right? So in this case also, before my data gets updated into database, I want to check whether my last working day and hire date are correct or not. If they are not correct or if they are not in proper logic, then I will display some alert. So I have written before insert or update. Okay, I have given the order we discussed previously also, that the lesser the order you give, the higher the priority it has. So if you give lesser order, let's say -100, which means this is the priority business rule, it will get executed. The more order you give, that this will get executed later. Okay. So what we have done here, we have no condition. There is no filter condition, which means whenever a user record get inserted or updated in my user table, it will this particular business rule will get executed. Okay. So what we have done is we have built up condition here. So in my condition tab, sorry, there is no condition, which means this will run as it is. Now what will happen, at the beginning it doesn't have any condition, and here also it doesn't have any condition. So what will happen, system will come to script section, wherein it will try to check all the scripts related to whatever we have built up. Okay, so in this script what is happening, so you see, right, there is something called where first day. Where first day is nothing but your variable which is storing some value present on the form. So which table I am working right now? I'm working on user table, if you see. So I am getting the data from user table. Okay. So what I have written, where first day equal to current dot u underscore hire dot get display value. So I am trying to get current hire date of a user record. So when I say I open a record of Ravi Kiran, I get higher date of Ravi Kiran. When I open record of Yugandhar, I get higher date of Yugandhar. Okay, I am storing that in this variable called first day. Similarly, there is another variable called last day. So I am trying to fetch the value of last day, whatever I am trying to update. So let's say when Fakruni got hired, I updated her first day as 1st of Jan 2023. Now, let's say she has decided to move on to another organization, got better offer. So she is moving on. So what I will try to do, I'll try to put 7th of April 2023 as her last working day. This I want to update. So whatever data I am filling in, that will come up here, last day. Okay. Now what will happen if last day, if here I'm building up that condition wherein I'm checking whether both days are present or not. Okay, so let's say it can happen, right, that some people are very smart. So they will try to put some incorrect values, or some people will try to submit blank form also. So I'm just trying to validate here whether both of the fields are having any value or not. So I've just put if first day and last day, which means they should have some value, they are not blank. Okay, if both of the field is having certain value, so what will happen, my condition became true, my code will go inside, then it will do if gs dot date diff. Okay, so gs dot date diff, gs is another glide systems API, and date diff is nothing but a date difference function which is provided by gs. Okay, gs part we are going to discuss in upcoming sessions. What I am trying to do, I am trying to get the difference between these two. I'm trying to get the difference between hire date and last working day. If that difference is greater than 0, which means my hire date is lesser than my last working day, my condition is true. Okay, it is, sorry, my last working day is basically, my last working day is lesser than my hire date. Okay, which means I put my hire date as 7th of April, but my last working date I'm putting as 1st of April. Then this condition becomes true. The difference is lesser than 0. Sorry. Okay, the difference is lesser than 0. What will happen eventually? My code, my script server will come inside here, and it will display this type of error message. gs.add error message. The last day worked must be after the hire date. It will please make the changes. So this type of message will come if I am providing incorrect data. Why I did this? So that I should have my database with consistent value. I should not have any garbage type. That's why I'm writing this on my server. And what I did is line number 10 is current.u_last equal to is last is nothing but that last working day field. I'm setting it to blank because I put wrong details. Okay, so I'm setting it to blank, and what I am doing, current.set abort action true, which means I'm saying to system that stop this transaction, it has incorrect value. Set abort action is another function which will abort the transaction. When I say abort the transaction, it will cancel the transaction which you are trying to do. Okay, and then at last I'm trying to put something called gs.log. I'm trying to do certain logging wherein I wanted to put some error messages so that I can do a lot of troubleshooting, etc. Okay, so I hope this business rule part is clear, or you guys have any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Yes, no.
Devendra, for this server script, we need to write in this advanced only, or normal we can do it in actions also, like script. There is one option called no. In client script, we have an option like script. Here we have advanced option is there, no?
Yeah. So if you want to write certain scripts, then you have to go like, see, in actions tab you can set up certain values. Simple things you can do, but there may be certain requirement, right, wherein you want to build up certain complex logic. For example, you are in Ireland. Okay, Pakruni is in US, and let's say Uganda is in UK, right? You have to build up a logic which suits all 3 time zones. That you cannot do in actions tab, right? For that you have to write this logic in script tab only, advanced tab. Okay, such type of complex logic you'll be writing up. And even if you have to trigger certain events, you have to trigger certain notifications, all that you can do here. Okay, actions tab is simple thing, like you wanted to set certain values, simple things you wanted to do, that part you can do here. Okay. Yeah, any other question for? Yeah.
Yes, so we have to write this much of script. We can't like 2 line of script, we can't write it.
Yes, you have to write, because if you see, there is nothing much, but what you are trying to do is you are trying to get the values which are present on the form, and then you are checking, okay, whether that values are correct or not. Okay, that's it. So it is like, ideally these are what error messages. So you can I have put multiple, but you can put only one. No need for this line number 9 also. Don't worry, we will talk about code optimization also. There are certain ways by which you can reduce the number of line of codes also.